All right. Hey, Ole Miss, a 31-28 winner over Texas A&M. Thank you guys for coming. It's just me tonight. There's no guest analyst. It's just me and you guys. Thanks for stopping by as well. This was a game that was a must win. We talked about this all week. We talked about basically why this game is so important. Yes, I'm actually proof life of dim that you can host a podcast if you don't live in Oxford. So thank you very much for that. But thanks for tuning in for that. So this was a huge game. And if you watched the podcast all week, you heard what we said about this game and how it would go. And it played out almost exactly how we told you this week. This was a big, big deal. Thank you very much for turning in. I predicted 34-27. As the final score, it ended up being 31-28. It was pretty close. It was a game where Quinshon Judkins on his birthday rushed for over 200 yards. And that's why it's very important for him. He's such a good running back. But what? I have no idea what's going on with Life of Dim. His weird questions. Anyway, we got a whole bunch of good stuff going on. Quinshon Judkins had a really, really good game. I'm going to interact with the chat, have fun. We'll talk about what's going on, what we just saw. This was a huge, huge game. Now, this season is the best start that Ole Miss has been on since 1962. Absolutely true. Think about that. Best start since 1962. And I've told you guys for months that this was the most talented team in my lifetime. And this is now setting up what is going to be a potentially massive game with the Alabama Crimson Tide. Absolutely massive. And potentially after the LSU game, the West could be for the taking. Potentially after the LSU game, LSU will prove that Alabama is beatable. Either way, this game, November 12th, has become massive. So, listen. The first thing, Quinshon Judkins rushed for 200 yards. It was absolutely huge. There's some major things that we need to pay attention to moving forward. First of all, moving Jonathan Mingo to use in the tight end type routes was absolutely genius. Absolutely genius to match him up in different times. They used him on wheel routes and did stuff that they would normally do with Michael Trigg. They did with Jonathan Mingo. Absolutely huge for the confidence of that. Jackson Dart played a solid game. It's about time that we need to retire the Jackson Dart quarterback thing. He played a good game. This is 3 straight games where even if there was an interception, it wasn't necessarily his part. Jackson Dart is there. He's kind of developing in front of our eyes. It is a big, big thing. Doesn't matter, Ole Miss Ford, but you can't really prove that because they basically told me that A&M was going to beat us and that Ole Miss was going to go 7-5, and people were all down on this Ole Miss team. It doesn't matter. It's a one-shot game. You see upsets all the time. And now Ole Miss has a chance to do that and to reach a level that nobody thinks is possible. And by you bringing that up, Ole Miss Ford, you don't think it's possible. So enjoy this. This is the best start in 60 years by an Ole Miss football team. Say again, this is the best start in 60 years. If you are poo-pooing the start, if you're doing everything else, you're doing this wrong. You're not going to have fun with college, watching college football. Kevin Patrick says once A-Chain got around 20 carries, I imagine he's saying he got tired. And that is true. We did talk about that during the week, that Devin A-Chain was kind of a slight guy. And basically, you figured the game was going to have about 75 plays. And I thought that his 25 plays, you needed to try and do the best you can to contain him, which they actually did other than that first quarter when he went off. And basically from then on, he got tired. He worn down. He wore down during the game, and his slight frame kind of got taken advantage of, and he wasn't the same player as the game moved on. And the defense kind of established some control and started to get some confidence, which was really good to see because they needed to have some confidence after Auburn and LSU, and they were able to put that together. This is fantastic, this start. This Bama game is coming up with everything on the line. This is the biggest game to be played in Oxford, Mississippi in 20 years. Since LSU played in 2003, that was the closest to this game. This game will be massive. I think there's a chance that game day might even show up. It is going to be a huge deal. Dr. Mark Common, I got a timestamp, so if I mispronounced that, I'm sorry. Buying some health could really improve this team going into the last three. Absolutely. And what this win tonight accomplished is that Ole Miss is going to go to a good bowl now. If they would have lost against Texas A&M, all of a sudden Nashville becomes a part of the equation. Now they're looking at probably going 9-3, 10-2, somewhere in there, and they'll either go to the former Outback Bowl, the Citrus Bowl, or the Orange Bowl, I'm assuming. I don't know if they'll go to the Sugar because you do have Alabama, Georgia, and Tennessee that will be ahead of Ole Miss. So the Orange Bowl could be a possibility for that. And I think the Peach Bowl is a part of the playoff this year. So what game in 2014, Life of Them? Are you talking about the early Alabama game? Mike Biggs says, basically, we still don't know how this team will perform against Bama. It could go either way. Yeah, exactly. And people, whenever they started this year talking everything about we won't know about this team. You won't be able to do this against an SEC team. You won't be able to do this then. It was basically everybody saying, we don't know what this team will do against Bama. That's what they're saying. That was what they were really saying. We don't know what they'll do against Bama. Bama does a fantastic job of stopping the run. They do. Their strength matches up with our strength. It is literally an immovable object versus an irresistible force type situation. So Bama struggles in the secondary. So this could be a passing type ball game, but it's a game that the atmosphere has a chance to get out of control a little bit if they're not careful. This is still a young team. It might be the best starting team that Ole Miss has had in 60 years. But it's still a young team, and it's still a team that was built for 2023. The secret to this season is all going to be about maximizing the quarterback position. Period. Now, Lane Kiffin, he's doing alternate things with game plan and things like that. Because they're playing pass defense and dropping back life at them. They are good at stopping the run. But you have to stay with it. They're not Georgia. I'm not saying they're Georgia, but they are very physical and very good players. If you underestimate them at your peril. Jacob Holloway says the turning point in that game was the fake punt. That decided the game and swung the momentum. I don't disagree. I think more important was the second possession when A&M got the ball to start the second half with a 14-10 lead. If A&M could have gotten that out to 2 scores, that was going to be very, very difficult for Ole Miss after that. It just was. Now, Roger Mathis says, was without the doubt the best second half of the year, still growing. LSU slapped us in the face. Yeah. You know, Roger, I do want to talk about that. Zach Evans not playing against LSU hurt us so bad. You see the difference in the two running back and the way they complement each other. whenever there was no Zach Evans, there was no way really to attack the outside of the field because Zach Evans' benefit is the outside of the field. And him coming back tonight completely opened everything up because there was a stretch where A&M was absolutely dominating the offensive line. The safeties were squeezing down and they were really making Quinshon Judkins struggle a little bit. And Zach Evans coming in the second half and deciding to go and working on the outside of the field, making plays, kind of accordioning that defense out and made the defense worry about different things other than inside zone and these inside zone type plays. So that was a big miss at LSU. I don't think anybody realizes how big Zach Evans not playing was a miss. Eric Neeson says, I haven't really read up on Trigg. Do you think it would be at all possible for him to return at Bama? Love Mingo in that role, though. I think Chuck at the Ole Miss Spirit reported that he's been reported that he's out to the bowl game. The other website is reporting that it shouldn't last that long. And the staff is not talking about injuries. That's just what they do. Now, I don't, just a gut feeling. I mean, we have a doctor in the chat, it's going to be a difficult thing for him to come back against Bama. I think that would be the 5-week mark. I think I've heard that somewhere that he would be about there. But I think Arkansas at the earliest, personally. I did not see that handshake tonight. Was it funny, David? David Landrum says, anybody see the handshake tonight from Lane and Jimbo? Man, he hated to lose. Glenn Smith says second half defense was the best the D has looked since the Vandy game. Yes, absolutely. Those guys got confidence and they needed confidence, especially with what's coming up. Cody Coker says, I think we change up a bit. This team has a very big chip on their shoulder with Bama coming into our house. Dart shows out. Hopefully LSU bangs up that Bama offense. That's the amazing thing about this is because they have to go and play a real LSU team. And either they're going to come out of that game beat up from what they had to do against LSU, or they're going to come out of that game where we know we can win because the same thing happened to them. This was a blessing, honestly. In 2 years, Q is going to be a beast. Q's a beast now. I think he went over $1,000. Their true freshman quarterback sliced us up a bit, yes, but it wasn't really slicing us up a bit. He did some stuff really well. He's a good player. He is a really good player. Connor Weigman is going to be their future, and he's probably going to help turn them around. But he played fairly well, but he was limited. There were certain things that they didn't want Connor Weigman to do, and because of that, Chris Partridge was able to hone in on those little things and really got after the quarterback, really stopped Devin Achane once he realized what happened. 13 days of rest, best not lay an egg next year. Yeah, absolutely correct. Cody Coker says, very big blessing. New A&M would have had a ton of energy. We went and handled the year one with Dart and Judkins. This team is incredible. I'm so proud to be a damn Rebel. You are absolutely damn right, Cody. This was a big game. And like I said, this is setting up the biggest game in Oxford, Mississippi since 2003. I think Life of Dim in the chat talked about the 2014 Bama game. That game was in September. That game was not deciding in any way towards the actual SEC West. This game is going to be played on November 12th. Ole Miss is going to play a game likely on November 12th with a chance to win and go to the SEC championship game if they get out. They will be in the driver's seat after that game. There's still Arkansas, which, by the way, horrible matchup for us. We're going to have to go into that game. Just be prepared for it and win a drunk game. It's going to look a lot like last year if we win the game. If it looks normal with Rocket Sanders and KJ Jefferson, I think that's going to be a tall task. But first, we got the Alabama Crimson Tide. Cody Coker says Ulysses Bentley can't be healthy. He looked explosive at the beginning. I think this bye is huge. Yeah, this bye is everything. Absolutely everything. If LSU beats Bama by some miracle, how big is this game? It's still big because LSU still has Arkansas on the schedule, and LSU still has somebody else, I believe, as well. It's still a big game. Still a really huge game. But Bama is probably going to be favored by 7-14 against LSU. There goes Dayton Wade popping up again. You are absolutely correct. We need Bama to beat LSU. Yes, absolutely. That would build up our game and get LSU, who has the tiebreaker over Ole Miss, down to 2 losses. And yes, Bama needs to beat LSU, Mike's Biggs, and get beat up. I'm telling you that you got to be really excited about what you saw tonight. Now, at the end of the game, whenever they were playing prevent defense, they worked a little bit. There was 2 or 3 concepts that the kid was able to do pretty well for Texas A&M, and I'm not going to say he made it a game because they had 90 yards to go for a tying score, but it was still there. And this is kind of the same thing he did last week. He did that against Carolina to where they had a Hail Mary in the end zone with a chance to win the game. So we will see exactly how that goes. Yeah, defense needs to get it together. I posted on my Twitter, if you want to go back on my Twitter, it was a story about the Iowa State defense and why they run it and what they're doing. And you're seeing teams kind of start to go back to that power system, which makes that Iowa State defense kind of irrelevant. It was originally created to cope with these spread offenses in the Big 12. And timing-wise, I think we're starting to do. But we'll see exactly how that looks. Billy Jones says the West is stupid crazy this year, and I love Ole Miss being in the mix of it. Yeah, 8-1. For the first time in my life, I can say we're 8-1. That's pretty cool. Cody Coker, not going to lie, I was in Baton Rouge last week, and that place has a weird vibe this year. Could be an upset this next weekend. I hope Bama pulls it out and gets a little banged up. Cody, I agree. LSU has a 2008 Ole Miss feel about them, and they could very well beat Alabama in that game. If they don't, bully for us. Glenn Smith says that timeout we had to adjust to that deep dig route in the fourth quarter was brilliant. Weigman never got comfortable again. Weigman also he wasn't really comfortable after that big hit from Tavius Robinson. You can tell that kind of shook that freshman, honestly. It honestly shook him a little bit for that. He's a good player. A-Chain's a good player. That is a talented team. You could just see how the talent just oozed. And Ole Miss was able to get that win on the road. And that means we can all see what a quarterback does to a team. But, yeah, this Ole Miss team can be fairly special. As we can see by 8-1. I mean, it is what it is. The roughing the passer call was, Jacob Holloway says the roughing the passing call was an awful call. I agree with that. I think, the targeting went away. Thank goodness. Tavius Robinson will be available for Alabama in the first half. But, yeah, it was basically hitting the quarterback too hard is what he got called for. Anyone else think A&M's injuries were pointed at slowing down the tempo offense? Yes, I absolutely. Last year at Tennessee, all the injuries and faking injuries and all that everybody was talking about, apparently that wasn't Lane Kiffin. Apparently that was DJ Durkin, because you saw a lot of stuff, and this is a lot of the same stuff that Ole Miss did to Tennessee last year. Not mad, just we need to call it what it is. But that is because they couldn't stop the running attack. And that was with a superior defensive line. And they just couldn't get it stopped. Period. And inside zone, outside zone, Jackson Dart running scrambles whenever the middle got vacated. All of which stressed the Texas A&M defense. And it just neutralized every bit of their talent because they were taking false steps in every direction because they didn't know exactly how they needed to do it. This is a running offense that Ole Miss has never had, not in my lifetime. Back in the 70s, under King Cooper or Steve Sloan, I mean, there was a couple of games where they put up over 400 yards rushing. I think they did against Tennessee. But this is a special running team. And you basically have two grown men in Zach Evans and Quinshon Judkins. And you're going to see an unbelievably light practice next week while they're recruiting and doing whatever they need to do. Let's look at the stats real quick before I take a short break because we got to take two. That's the way this works. Jackson Dart was 13 for 20 at 65%, 140 yards and 3 touchdowns. He was sacked once. Quinshon Judkins, 200 yards rushing on 34 carries, 6 yards a carry. Jackson Dart had 17 carries for 95 yards. Zach Evans had 8 for 75. It is real close to what we did against Auburn. Mingo was 4 for 89 with 1 touchdown, and that move around role that he did so effectively, he even played with his hand down at tight end. It was really cool, and it was basically a way that they could kind of mimic Trigg. Jonathan Cruz was money. Frazier Mason was money. Jordan Watkins struggling on the punt return. I was a little bit concerned about that. So somebody in the chat, I didn't see what they said, but they were asked about 21 personnel. I don't think 21 personnel is going to come out next week. I think 20 personnel is about to make an appearance. Maybe 21, but possibly 20, where you're going to have Judkins and Evans on the field at the same time. They've saved it for Bama. If they were going to break it out, they're going to break it out for that game. Look for 20 personnel. That is going to be a big, big thing. Anyway, this episode is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. It's the easiest place to spice up your college football season. So I'm being an emphasis on easy. Like you would go into this game, it's like, would Jackson Dart have more or less than 205 yards or something like that? And you would pick that. And you basically do that on several things, like is Anthony Richardson passing yards, Brock Bowers receiving yards, stuff like that. All big deals with the Underdog Fantasy crew. It's available in 30 states right now. And you can just pick between 2 and 5 players on your team, not just the Ole Miss Rebels, and decide if they will finish higher or lower than the predicted stats. It's pretty good. It's one of the easiest fantasy to play games out there, and you can win cold hard cash in every single game. So sign up with the promo code LOCKEDON, one word, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's right. Deposit $100, get $100 free. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com or find the Underdog Fantasy app in the App Store or Google Play Store. That's Underdog Fantasy. Promo code Locked On. Get in on the college football pick'em action today. All right. Thank you for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We're free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, hit the bell for notifications, and of course, participate in the conversation by commenting down below and upvoting the video. David Landrum said, Steven, how does this team compare to Freeze's 2014 team? This team is more talented than the 2014 team. The difference is the 2014 team had Bo Wallace. That was the difference in that team. And you had some high-end type guys. But the drop-off from those high-end guys was kind of pronounced. This team, like last year, 18 four-star, 18 blue-chip players were on the roster that Ole Miss went to the Sugar Bowl with. This year, it's like 32. So this is a talented team. Young team, talented team. So Roger Mathis says, thank God Lane is in office in Oxford and not College Station. Yeah. Amy Ryan says, woo! Mike Biggs says, Judkins went over 1,000 yards for the season tonight, didn't he? Nobody's talking about that. I haven't seen the exact number, but I knew he was close. I think I saw on Twitter he was like at 960 something in the first half. So, yeah, I think he was there. Joey Freeman says, Judkins for Heisman, number 4, yes. He's potentially the best running back in the country, and he's a true freshman, and he turned 19 years old today. Absolutely phenomenal. So, I'm going to ask you guys a question. Since you guys participate in the chat and you guys are doing a fantastic job. Michael, Jalen Robinson was dressed out tonight. I saw him on the sideline. What do you think about this season? I know last week you were down. Everybody was down last week. Everybody was trying to pile on. What do you think about this season now? Honest thing. What are you expecting moving forward? David Landrum says Judkins also set the school record for TDs by a freshman as well, didn't he? Yes, he did. I think he broke JRP's record from 2019. He may have turned 18 today, Joey. I may have misheard. Does Casey's TD pass help his issues going forward? Joshua, I hope so. I mean, I'm happy for Casey to make that catch because that was a big moment in the game. It just was. It was a big moment in the game because we were trying to force it in and we were having trouble moving their defensive line. So we needed to be able to count on a tight end to make that play. And Casey was able to do that. Now other people, whenever he's in the game, he's not going to automatically be treated like run. He'll be treated like somebody that they could go to, that it could work. And because of that, it could open up for him. Tyler Dodson says, happy to be 8-1. It's an uphill battle from here. Well, it's a game where Ole Miss can potentially be favored by 2. Ole Miss can win all 3 games. Ole Miss can lose all 3 games. So I think everybody needs to be prepared for that. But I think Ole Miss is likely going to finish 10-2 or 9-3. But that's just my opinion over this. Mike Biggs says, it's possible that Arkansas will be a tougher game than Bama. Yes. I've called Arkansas an L since we did the wins and losses like 5 months ago. That game scares the hell out of me after Alabama. It just does. We win the Bama game, and it'll be the best season in my lifetime by far. Yes, I'm very excited, Guyton, right now. And I'm ready for these last 3 games. I'm going to be fairly insufferable for the next 2 weeks. Understand that. This is the biggest game in 20 years to be played in Vaught Hemingway Stadium, November 12th. That is going to be pointed out. That is going to be said over and over again because it's absolutely true. And Alabama, they're the ones that found this murder ball way to play against Ole Miss all the way back last year. But they had Brian Robinson, a 230-pound running back, and they were okay just running up the middle, getting 4 yards and 4 yards and 4 yards. And he ended up with 180 yards and 4 touchdowns. And Bryce Young only had 170 yards passing. And I think it's important to realize exactly how this could go, honestly. Because Alabama has a game plan for what they want to do. They do not have Jamison Williams this year. They have a completely different team than the Alabama that we are accustomed to. Now, Jahmyr Gibbs, great player. And these are still 5 stars everywhere. These are still 5 stars all over the field at Alabama. So whenever you hear me talk, understand that everything is relative. But there are some things that Ole Miss can attack against Alabama that we should be aware of. Tennessee exposed a game plan with Alabama. On the outside, I expect Ole Miss to do some stuff on the outside, similar to Tennessee, especially with the run game that they have to respect. Jackson Dart, especially with his legs, will be extremely huge. I'm already breaking down. I'm already in the mindset of breaking down this game when a great game just happened. I mean, this is amazing. What time will Bama kickoff be likely? Most likely 2:30 on CBS. Do you think Lane was capping when he said earlier this week that he wasn't going to use Dart in the run game moving forward, or do you think he did it tonight out of necessity? I think he did it tonight a little bit out of necessity because there was a stretch where their defensive line was making a little bit of a mess of things. Billy Jones says, remember when Ole Miss went to Arkansas and Bo had the flu while it was cold and raining? That's what I'm expecting this year. Yeah, Bo got hurt that game too, and that led to the TCU debacle. There's a lot of similarities between this team and the 2014 team. There's a lot of similarities. And just like that, 2015 was the team. But 2014, there's some similarities there. But we'll see exactly how that goes. I know Lane's going to want this really, really bad. TCU should have been in the playoffs, Jacob says. Yes, absolutely. They got absolutely robbed, and I think they were ranked before the last game. Zach Tyler says, honestly, the defense played well in the second quarter and most of the second half. I'm not sure why the people keep talking about the defense. It's because of the way it looked early on, by the way, Zach. Everybody has a take of exactly what they're expecting this defense to be, and whenever it gets confirmed in some way in their mind, they're going to go with it. The important thing to remember about this defense, the important thing that you need to remember about this defense, and the defense played well in spots today. It did. But this defense is built to make the other team struggle to outscore us. The whole defense is made for an offensive team. It's a bend but don't break system. It's not going to be a dominant defense. It's not going to be Georgia. It's not going to be the 2011 Alabama team. It's not going to be 2012 or 2011 LSU team with the Honey Badger and all those. The defense will never be that. If you go back on Twitter and read, we talk about Iowa State going to that John Haycock defense, which is basically what this is. And the whole point of it is to be honest about your weakness. And your weakness is running the ball. If you can do that, you can make us hurt. But can you do that and outscore us? That's the secret weapon. That's the secret weapon in this whole thing. And the defense played really well once they got off the script versus Jimbo Fisher. Jimbo Fisher in the first two drives had just a fantastic script for Connor Weigman. Absolutely perfect. It was stuff that Ole Miss hadn't seen before. It was stuff done at tempo. It was a huge deal. That and Devin Achane hitting 20 carries changed this game. Whenever that stopped and Devin Achane going to 20 carries, the game changed. Because Achane couldn't be the guy that got 10 carries and 13 plays anymore. He's a slight guy. He ran out of gas a little bit. So they had to protect him. Connor Weigman, 2 or 3 routes he threw really well. Once we figured out what those routes were, kind of changed. And at the end of the game, I mean, it happened what happened, but this was a team that was just basically designed to make them take their time. Moose Muhammad, absolutely big player for Texas A&M tonight. Moose Muhammad was absolutely immense. Evan Stewart was immense. Devin Achane played well. And Connor Weigman, he's just a true freshman, but he's going to be the real deal. You can see that. Ole Miss won the game. I thought in the first half, Ole Miss survived. Basically survived the onslaught. It could have been worse. but Ole Miss was down, I think, 14-10 with Texas A&M getting the ball back, and you're like, if Ole Miss can get a stop on this first drive in the third quarter and go down and score a touchdown and put the pressure on them, all of a sudden Texas A&M was going to start having muscle memory with their past offense and the struggles that they had. And that's kind of what happened. It turned out to be a pretty good deal. They got I think on one drive in the third quarter, Texas A&M had 3 or 4 penalties. They started getting them offense. They started playing less clean. In the first half, they played a completely clean half of football. It was the best half of football they have played, and I think they would tell you that as well. But in the second half, started to get a little bit unclean, and the procedure penalties and the blocking issues started popping up. And Ole Miss was able to take advantage of that. I think you ended up with Devin Achane. Let's see, what did he end up in this game? 138 yards. He had 134 in the second quarter. So we're talking about a defense that played really well and an offense that just got away from Devin Achane. And after Devin Achane, they had nobody to run the football. If you look at their depth chart, Le'Veon Moss had 1 carry for 0 yards. They put him in, I think, maybe on the goal line. But nobody besides Devon Achane gets the ball. You know, Connor Weigman was 28 of 44. 44 passes is not something you want a true freshman to do. 338 yards, had 4 touchdowns, 2 sacks. Good player. But Moose Muhammad had a fantastic day. That's a dude. Him and Evan Stewart, that's a dude. Guyton Bush says, my favorite moment of the game was Lane telling the Texas A&M DB to fake another injury. That's my head coach, yes. Absolutely. Can we pay them as much, Graves? Yeah. I think Texas A&M's about to start winning games. Yeah. David Landrum says, Steven, it looked like Achane became a non-factor in the second half. Why did Fisher go away from him? Because he already had 25 carries. It's one of those things like a pitch count in baseball. There's just certain things they don't want to go over. Lane with Quinshon Judkins tonight, he is giving more and more carries. There's a chance if he's successful, he'll have 40 carries against Alabama. But hopefully Zach Evans, who looked pretty good, will be back and healthy. And then you got 2 weeks of Ulysses Bentley. You got the chance at Michael Trigg. And like I said, just a chance. But that's going to be huge for that game. And like I said, this is the biggest game in Vaught-Hemingway Stadium since 2003. Since Jonathan Nichols missed 2 field goals and almost lost 17-14 to the soon-to-be national champion. So it should be pretty cool. I'm really fired up right now. And, I've had a whole bunch of people going at me for a week. I don't know why. There's people that just apparently don't like the issue. We're trying to have fun on this, and we're doing all that. And I have a problem with people that want to make this less fun for you guys. Because if you want to have fun, let's do it. Let's rock and roll. That's what this is about. But if somebody is going against the fun that you guys are having, I have a problem with that a little bit. I don't have a problem if they don't like me. That doesn't matter at all. But I do have a problem if they're messing with you guys. David Landrum says, what happened when Evans fell? I just think he tweaked his knee a little bit. And what's your uni prediction versus Bama? Okay. Same as 2014. Navy helmets, Navy uniforms, gray pants. That is my prediction for Alabama uniform-wise. That is my prediction. Let's go get Lane that Joker costume. Yeah, Lane being called a clown by Jimbo pissed him off. And he wanted this tonight. And he knew that he had a chance to put up a ton of yards against A&M. Let's look at team stats real quick, because I don't know if people are going to go down this road, but Ole Miss had 29 first downs in that game. Ole Miss threw for 7 first down. They ran for 19, and they had 3 in one drive for first downs. Ole Miss was 7 of 16 against a super talented defense. I mean, these guys were really good defensively. DJ Durkin knows they're good defensively. It's a talented group of guys. Ole Miss was able to do that. Ole Miss had 530 yards of offense. Of that, 390 was rushing. Absolutely nuts. Brett Ford asked, Malik Heath was just locked down all game, didn't really get any action at all. I think they call plays. The way this offense works is they call plays for somebody, and it's not necessarily a progression. And Jonathan Mingo being moved around, they really wanted to get the ball in his hand. And you even look at like Dayton Wade, that was a big situation for him. That one pass, Malik Heath in bounds, that was a big deal. But they locked him down, and throwing the ball, I mean, it's going to be hard. I think we have too many weapons at our disposal. The OC needs to get more creative. Yeah, Carlos, I agree with that, and I think we will against Alabama. You're going to see exactly the end result of what we're going to be in that game. I think Lane is going to leave every stone and leave no stone unturned, and he's going to do whatever he has to do to move the ball against Alabama. Now, one of the things against Alabama that's going to be a big deal, and you need to take advantage of Henry To'oTo'o in the RPO game. He is not good in pass coverage. He is excellent in run defense. So it's important to get him false stepping and not going where he needs to go, because that'll give openings for running backs and things like that. But you need tight ends in the RPO game to do that. Now, I think Jonathan Mingo playing tight end this week is going to force Nick Saban to try and prepare as if there was a major big-time tight end in Ole Miss's offense. That's another thing that was for. It was also for basically making that position a weapon, but it's also for making Nick Saban think about it. And because of that, like I said, Michael Trigg potentially could come back. I don't know the exact timeline on him, but I've seen Bama as the earliest. I've seen the bowl game as the earliest. I've seen it everywhere, all over the chart. So we don't know. But I think you're going to hear about him like he could play this week. I think people are going to ask Lane about it. I think Lane is going to answer a little bit that injury question. If for no other reason, if he doesn't make it, he can screw with Nick Saban a little bit about that. AEC says, good chance this offense looks a little bit different in 2 weeks in terms of creativity. Yeah, it absolutely will. I think they're also going to spend 2 weeks learning how to throw a screen pass. They haven't been very good at that as the season went on, but that is going to be a weapon in that game. Shane Parker says, what are your thoughts on that third down run play with only 2 offensive linemen and the rest of the offense all outright? I did not like that. That is really close to that Colts fake punt thing. And at least he gained 2 yards. But, yeah. David Landrum says, was watching the game with my parents. Man, Mom looks at me and says, can we get somebody besides Jordan Rogers to call our games? Yeah. Everybody calling games this year is seemingly are rooting for somebody other than Ole Miss to win that game. And I don't know what it is. I don't understand what is happening there. We used to be a little bit of a darling, and now everybody's kind of turned on us. Maybe it was because we're threatening for third in the West, fourth in the West, somewhere in there, New Year's Six Bowl. They don't want Ole Miss to get there. Maybe that bias is there. Maybe they have some kind of vendetta against the way we play offense. Some people do that, by the way. The way we play offense, they have a vendetta against it. There's people that wanted Rich Rod gone because of how he ran the offense. So, Oh, James, I'm sorry. James says he had to miss a lot of the game due to his mother in an ICU hospital. That's terrible, James. I hope she's okay. She's in our prayers. It's like you say all the time. Everyone hates a confident Ole Miss team. Yes, absolutely. And everybody hates a confident Ole Miss fan. If you come into something and are not self-deprecating, if you're not looking into it, it's like, well, we could be good, but we're just kind of lucky to be here, they're insulted because this is not the way it's supposed to be to them. It's a hard thing to handle. Thank you as well, James. Thanks for tuning in. Like I said, we're going a little bit longer tonight because it's just me and I just want the chat to go back and forth. If you guys have any questions, throw them up in the chat. If I see them, the chat window that I see, it scrolls like what you see on the screen, so it's pretty quick. So if I see it, I'll read it. If I miss it, please put it in there again. I'm not doing anything intentional. CBS was worse last week. Who was the color commentator for CBS? He was horrible. It's Gary Danielson. And yes, he was openly rooting for LSU in that game. People do not want Ole Miss to be good. And we're at the point right now, and I'm happy as heck, because we're going to a bowl game likely in Tampa, in Orlando, or the Orange Bowl in Miami. The farthest away from me is 2.5 hours. The closest is 30 minutes. So I am very, very happy. And we're going to do stuff where I have a media credential and go to the bowl game and do all of that stuff as well. Guyton Bush says, who do you have as the X factor for the Bama game? Jackson Dart is the X factor for the Bama game. Because anytime you beat Alabama, you need superior quarterback play. We can run the ball. We can make them worry about us running the ball. But Jackson Dart has to hit downfield passes that kind of makes that defense not squeeze our run game. Because we're going to try and run the ball. We have two of the best running backs in the country. We are like second, but other than a service academy, I think we might be number one in the country in running the ball. Everybody knows we're going to do it. We still do it. Alabama's going to try and scheme to stop it too. Jackson Dart needs to hit play action pass deep balls on a fairly consistent basis. He does not need to have a Steven Garcia type game. He does not need a perfect game. He just needs a good game. My last game in Oxford was the 2019 LSU game. I did not go during the COVID season, and I was down here in 2021 because I'm down in Central Florida, by the way. But yeah, I used to go up there all the time, 2 or 3 games a year. That's whenever I lived in Nashville, though. Now it's a little bit harder to get there. Has Dart turned? David Landrum says, has Dart turned the corner? No interceptions tonight. Yeah, I think he has, and I honestly think Dart did 2 weeks ago. I think, honestly, I'm going to tell you what, whenever he had to be a drop back passer against LSU, that probably helped him more than the rest of the season. You know, Ogata, we might lose to Bama, but you cannot say that there's a 0% of Ole Miss winning that game. You have to admit that there's a chance that Ole Miss wins that game. And that's all we want, period. Should be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to have a crossover with the Locked On Bama people like I always do. I'm going to get Jake Thomas from Tie Talk Podcast or Tie Talk Live. He's going to also be on. And we're going to blow this game out. Like I said, I'm going to be annoying for the next 2 weeks. If you do not like me and are not a fan of this podcast, this is a warning. The next 2 weeks, I'm going to make this game go nuclear. Understand that. You know, David, if game day is in Oxford, the guest picker is probably Eli because of their relationship with Omaha production. So I expect Eli in that situation with the game likely at 2:30. It could be interesting. I'm for finding Katy Perry and bringing her back. I think they need to just kind of recreate 2014 and have her come back, but I don't think they'll do that. Elgato, quit drinking, buddy. James McDonald says Chad Powers, aka Eli Manning. Yeah, that was pretty good as Chad Powers. Chloe McElmore says, in my opinion, what do I think is the biggest issue with the Ole Miss defense right now? They've had a lot of issues recently. Confidence is their biggest issue right now. Their problem is based off what they do. But their main issue over the last 3 weeks is their confidence got destroyed. Against A&M, they got a little bit of that back, and that is good going into Alabama. That's a major, major issue with Alabama because an unconfident defense, it could get bad. LSU really wasn't that good to me. We missed a lot of tackles and gave up plays we should have had. Yeah, like I said, it's a confidence issue. Carlos Jones with that. David Landrum says game day wasn't game day with Corso missing today. I love Stephen A. as the guest picker. Yeah, I heard it was really, really good. I hate that Jackson State basically had to do a Memorial Stadium parking lot setup. Although I was able to point at it and tell my wife where I sat for the immaculate deflection where I was. So that was pretty cool. Now, it's a really, really cool deal. I'm happy you guys are coming around. A real hottie toddy helps causes people's faces to turn red. Yes. And they hate the Gary Glitter Rock and Roll Part 2 that we do after wins. That makes their blood boil. I mean, Alabama stole that. Our defensive backs need to turn around and look at the ball and improve their ball skills. Yes. Also, I think Davison Igbenegson has hit a little bit of a freshman wall, and he's going to have to fight his way through it over the next couple of weeks. It just is what it is. Now, when we come back, after we take a short break, we will talk about Quinshon Judkins and hit your thing. Tracy Ivy in the chat, just so everybody knows, that's Jared Ivey's mom. So say hey to Miss Tracy if you have a moment. Guyton Bush says, do you think we're hitting the portal or high school recruits harder in the offseason? It depends. I think they're going to hit the portal to fill holes. They're going to hit the high school pretty hard. David Landrum says, who does Judkins remind you of? Deuce McAllister or Randy Baldwin? Okay, this is my comp, and it's not an Ole Miss back. Quinshon Judkins reminds me of T.J. Yeldon in college. That's what he reminds me of. What's your opinion on Ole Miss delaying upgrades at the Vols? They have to for NIL's sake. Reed Hell says Zach Evans being able to play just a little today made so much difference. Yeah, it's amazing. He's so good outside the tackles. When he's not in the game, I mean, that's just it's kind of taken away. When we come back, we will talk about Quinshon Judkins and Jared Ivey because Miss Tracy is in the chat. So we're going to talk about Jared a little bit. So stick around for that. All right, thanks for making the Locked On Ole Miss podcast your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. So do us a favor, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell, comment down below, and upvote the video. Should be a lot of fun. So since Miss Tracy is in the chat, and she's awesome, she's been on my Twitter Spaces before, which, by the way, if you guys are looking for something, come to our Twitter Spaces. Every Tuesday at 7 Central, we have some of the contributors from Locked On Ole Miss on there. We talk about the game, what's coming up. We usually have the other locked on person on there so they can answer questions about the team we are playing. So that is pretty cool, I think. So I'm just really, really excited. Jared Ivey coming off and doing just a bull rush at the end of the game. His pass rushing ability is probably our defensive X factor. Everybody knows Cedric Johnson. Everybody knows Troy Brown. Everybody knows the secondary pieces on our team. But whenever this defense does well, Jared Ivey's at the center of it. He is a fantastic player, and basically he just decided he was going to transfer from Georgia Tech, and like within a week he was committed to Ole Miss. And that wasn't anything shady. That was just because he knew what was going on. So it's an awesome situation with Jared Ivey. He's a great player. He's the one that made the play at the end of the Kentucky game, and Ole Miss isn't 8-2 without him. And he is an outstanding addition to this Ole Miss defense, and a large portion due to their improvement today. Eddie Simmons says, I was at the Immaculate Deflection game. That was awesome. That is my favorite Ole Miss moment in history. I was in that stadium. I'll never forget it. I was 6 years old, and even that young, I knew exactly what was going on. It was absolutely nuts. That tight end and the wind picking up, and Artie Cosby with a 27-yard field goal that, I mean, a chip shot. He was an all-SEC level kicker, and that wind just blowing it back, and the celebrations on the Mississippi State side, and them sitting down, and then the Ole Miss side. It was fantastic, and I wouldn't trade that for anything. And I got to experience with my dad as well. Elgato Siesta says, beat Bama. Don't be like Mississippi State and get stared. Listen, okay. You guys know how I am about confidence, right? I assume that everybody is aware that how I deal with confidence on my show and how I view honestly about the morale of the fan base. Alabama wins more games on the numbers on the side of their helmets than any other team in college football. That game is lost before the kickoff more times than you guys would imagine. People over-respect the Tide to the point where they're honestly afraid to try and do stuff, and they're afraid to try and challenge players because in their mind they've already built them up to be a superior player. It is important, nay, imperative that we don't respect the Tide over the next 2 weeks. I didn't say disrespect them. Don't respect them. They're going to come over here and play, and they're going to come over here with the idea of what happened the last time they came over here. They are going to be ready to play, and we're going to get their best regardless. Whether we respect them or not is not going to matter at all. Have confidence in that game. Do not lose to the numbers on the side of the helmet before it even starts, because that happens so much with Alabama. AEC says transfers will start seeking us instead of the other way around. Yeah, is transfer. I think something special is about to happen. A&M is not scared of them at all because they knocked that shine off of them a little bit. So Tracy Ivey says the defense was better in the second half. Defense was better because of the confidence. Everybody needs to remember this defense needs confidence. Tackling and everything is want to and confidence. And if you are not confident that you can make a play, you will not make that play. They need to have the mentality that no matter what happens, they can make that play. And then you have what we had earlier in the season. Oh, David Landrum says, I talk about the Immaculate Deflection. He sat in Little Rock for the hit in 1990. That was awesome. I still remember Arkansas's quarterback, Quinn Grovey, and I think Ron Dickerson, wasn't that the same guy that coached at Ole Miss under Houston Nutt? I think he was the one that got hit. Jason McDonald says, proud of the defense efforts tonight. Yes, and this is so huge. But for the next, Reed, a lot of people say that I'm scared to death of the Arkansas game. Even before this game happened with Texas A&M, I tweeted out, if you told me that Ole Miss went 3-1 the rest of the way, I would not assume the loss to to Bama. I'm assuming a loss to Arkansas because weird stuff happens up in Vietnam. It just does. I saw a cut give up a touchdown on a kickoff return in Vietnam. So weird stuff happens. That is the toughest matchup. Not Mississippi State. Left on the schedule in the last 3 games, if you rank the matchups, Arkansas's the toughest, Bama's the second toughest, Mississippi State's the third toughest. That's what we're looking at the rest of the season. So if we can go up and win a game in Arkansas and win that game, think what we can do. It could be absolutely nuts. And even on Thanksgiving, playing with a drop 3 should be drop 8, I should say, should be interesting. Although State will be coming with vinegar because I don't know if a coach can survive losing to Ole Miss 3 times in a row anymore. Yeah, you can run on Arkansas moving ahead, and you can pass on it. I think Ole Miss's path to winning the game against Arkansas is a drunk game like 2021. That is the path to winning that game. You just got to go. You just got to put it on the floor and go. And that was from Joseph King. Man, it's pretty fired up. It's almost 1 o'clock in the morning on the East Coast, about midnight on the Central Time Zone. I'm like I said, I guess closing thoughts. I'm very excited going into the road trips. Even though I predicted Ole Miss to beat LSU and lose to Texas A&M in the preseason, they went different directions. But 8-1 was about what I predicted, honestly, in the preseason. Now it gets real because Ole Miss can lose all 3 of these games. Ole Miss can win all 3 of these games. It is going to be different varying levels of coin flips. Seriously. And it's going to be important to play very, very well against Alabama. I think they will. I think this game means a ton to Lane Kiffin. Just an absolute ton. So we'll see how that goes. But that Arkansas game's in a rough spot. It just is. For anybody that has aspirations about the SEC West, I even worry winning the game against Alabama, playing that Arkansas game. So we'll see how it looks. Ole Miss can win the game. And I'm probably going to pick Ole Miss to beat Bama. But I'll tell you why they could lose the game as well. No matter who we're playing, you're going to hear both sides of it. But, State still has to play Georgia. Yeah. But they get like weak sisters of the poor the Saturday before Thanksgiving, and we get Arkansas. That's a little bit different. So it should be interesting. Thank you guys just so much. Yeah, Lane was basically telling him to man up. Lane wanted this game. He wanted this game. He has some kind of affliction against Jimbo. I get, like I said, Jimbo called him a clown, the NIL stuff. Yeah, I get that. But yes, State's the easiest game, in my opinion, left on the schedule. State can still beat us. Everybody can beat us left on the schedule. And if you want to play man defense against Mississippi State, they will beat you. And that doesn't matter if it's Georgia or Alabama or whoever else is on the schedule. So anything can happen. Where do you think we fall in the college football playoff poll Tuesday night after tonight's win? Probably somewhere around 9 to 11. It depends on if they put more stock in the coaches poll or the AP. whenever they look at it, because everything is narratives in college football. There's no absolute fact. If there's the coaches poll where we're ranked 12th, there's a chance we could be 8th or 9th in the first playoff poll. But the fact of the matter is, if we win all the rest of our games, if we win out this season, we're going to the playoffs. So, I mean, yeah, don't necessarily worry about that. Everybody's pretty fired up tonight. Let's see. How many viewers do I have right now? 150 people are watching this as we speak. The highest we've had before this game is 50 viewers. So thank you guys very much. During the bye week, by the way, how much basketball do you guys want? I mean, since we're not, as you know, we do commentary and perspectives. That's what we do. We are not a news organization. We tell you to get perspectives from everybody. But because of that, how much basketball season do you guys want in the bye week? There's going to be none in the Alabama week. Do a basketball show, please. Yes, I will do a basketball show. We will get Jason Jordan, the college basketball recruiting guy, on the show next week, and he will talk about basketball recruiting. Tomorrow night, AEC, John Garcia has a recruiting show that's going to go up tomorrow night. Sunday night, there will be a football recruiting show. He talks about Kedrick, the four-star running back, I forget his last name, that just committed from Michigan State, or decommitted. And then he also talked a little bit about Caden Lee. So yeah, he talked about both of them. Mike Biggs says it's going to be really interesting to see how the Georgia defense does against that Tennessee offense. That's going to be fun next week to be able to just sit back at 8-1 and be like, okay, play football. But also during the bye week, we're going to do John Garcia again, and we're going to start making that regularly as it goes. Also, just a surprise, I don't know if I need to tell you guys that, but we're going to do live streams following commitments starting in December. Whether transfer portal or the high school ranks. So we will have those live streams as well. So it should be really cool. Ole Miss is going to pull the Triple Crown this year. Write it down. What are you talking about? Are you thinking they're going to win in basketball? I think they're going to have a decent team in basketball. I don't think they're going to win the Natty. But this is fun. Understand that I follow sports differently, and that pisses off people all the time, because you can actually tell tonight, as soon as the game is over, like Ole Miss beat Texas A&M 31-28. Now, I've already mentally turned the page to get ready for Alabama in this bye week and figuring out how I'm going to go about doing that. But I still have to do a 3 takeaways episode talking about this game for Monday's Locked On Ole Miss podcast, because that's the show. Locked On Ole Miss podcast, that's a 3 takeaway show every Monday. On Tuesdays is Keys to Win. Wednesdays, What to Watch For. Thursdays, Crossover. And Friday, Why Ole Miss Will Win. That's every week. So in a bye week, I have to figure out exactly how it looks and everything like that. But it's a lot of fun. But I will do a basketball show this week. This feeling tonight compared to the 2019 season. It was something. Just a little inside baseball for people that might be tuning in to the show tonight that doesn't know anything. I think his name is Luke something. Luke Robinson or something like that. That is the Locked On guy, I believe. I'll get that information eventually. We will know what's going on. Also followed Jake Thomas, TTS. He hosts the Tide Talk Live podcast. He's also with us on SEC After Dark, so he's one of our guys. So just a little inside baseball, since everybody is concerned about locations and things like that with podcasts. We had that earlier in the podcast as well. I'm in Central Florida. In 2019, Brian, you would be surprised how many times I've heard that. 2019, I had brain surgery. I have a brain tumor, for those that don't know. It's benign. It's not like cancerous or anything like that, but I had a brain tumor. And I had a major 19-hour surgery to make it smaller. And whenever that happened, perspective switched a little bit. Like, I still loved Ole Miss football, but I wasn't that interesting with COVID and everything else going on, and driving and sitting in the stadium and actually going to a game. And with every game being on television, every press conference being on television, I didn't think I needed to. So I moved down here. I started up this podcast, and you guys have followed it. I hope you guys like it. And there we go, Becky. Becky is my wife and also our chat producer on these live shows. So, yeah, whoever just asked for a recruiting update show, Sunday night will be a recruiting show. I recorded with John on Friday, even before this game, and put it up for Sunday. We're going to let this podcast, like, breathe until Sunday night, but we'll see how it goes. I'm telling you, this is fun. This is really fun. Let's see. Did anyone notice how long the ref kept us from hiking the ball that one time and caused us to get it? Yeah, that was a pretty big deal. I don't like that rule. I think I think the ball should be able to be snapped whenever it's being snapped, and whenever you think there's a matchup, there's a problem. I didn't like that rule. Didn't like that rule at all. So, okay, before I get out of here, I'm about to wrap this up. I'm going to get Jason Jordan to do a basketball and basketball recruiting show this week. I am going to do John Garcia and have him as well. I'm going to have the boys from Tide Talk Sports and the Locked On Tide show over the next 2 weeks sometime on this show. We're also going to have our normal contributors, Derek Vandegrift, Kara McCutcheon, and of course, Tom Vanderford. So we're going to have a lot of stuff going on, and we're going to take this game nuclear, and we're going to give it the respect it deserves. I'm not saying right now that I'm expecting Ole Miss 90% is going to win the game, but I am going to go into this game trying to figure out how Ole Miss can win this game. So, anyway, thank you very much for tuning in to the Locked On Ole Miss podcast. I hope everybody enjoyed this show. Tune in for our live streams in the future. We're 8-1. The biggest game in Vaught Hemingway is coming in 2 weeks. Get fired up. Enjoy next week's football with complete relaxation. We are in a new era of Ole Miss football, and it is really cool. So anyway, thank you very much for tuning in, and we will see you next time. Take care, bye, guys.